Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mephisto and welcome to The Ride. We're here in Toronto today. It's a beautiful day, and the guest I'm getting is a multi-hatted, multi-talented artist here in Toronto. She's actually from the US, but she'll talk more about it. She's a drummer. She's been doing a DJ thing for a couple of years in the Afro House scene, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about her. Let's go. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like those contents. Share with your friends, talk about it. It's very important for the artists. They talk about what they have in their heart and their soul, what they've been through. So yeah, support the channel, subscribe, and have fun. Let's go. Sarah Jane Riegler.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Oh, the awkward car hug. I love it.
Cool, let's do this. Oh,
Let's do it.
whatever. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. First thing first, to give me a quick introduction for whoever don't know you.
Yeah. So I'm Sarah, aka Sarah Jane Riegler. I wear many hats. I am a DJ. I am a drummer and percussionist. I also organize events in the city. I throw a party called Afro House, do some events in Hamilton as well. And that's really what mostly takes up my time. I do that full time. Yeah.
Very cool. So you, I know a lot of things already, but just gonna throw those questions. So you are not from Canada?
I'm not. So I'm American, and I'm from Michigan originally, so not even too far from here, really.
Cool. So, all right. So many hats, but so I'm just gonna deep into all those things for people who don't know you. So what's your story with as a musician first?
Yeah. Well, actually, before I was a musician, I was a dancer. My parents put me in like ballet, tap, and jazz when I was 3. So I've been on stage since I was 3 years old, and I was pretty shitty at ballet, but I was really, really, really talented at tap. Tap just like flowed so easily for me, and I feel like just rhythm has always flowed through me really easily. It's always just made so much sense for me. Not as much melody, but rhythm I always connect to. So I really got deep into tap dancing, and I was in band in 6th grade, and I wanted to play saxophone really bad, but they actually made me play percussion because my rhythm was so strong. And I was a bit resistant at first, actually. Like, I wasn't really into it for a few years, but starting in high school, I started playing in some bands. We did a lot of like drumline stuff, since we love that in America. And so I started playing with these old like drum corps guys, and I started taking weekly music lessons and like rudimental snare drumming. And it was just like,
Are you gonna have to go slow because I don't know all those things? So, drum lines.
So think about like the movie Drumline with Nick Cannon. It's you don't know that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is like thinking about like big marching bands, and they have like the drum corps, the drum line, like within
like
the marching
parades
band.
and stuff like that.
For parades, for football, like football is really the core of that.
Right.
For like high school, and then like universities, it's really big.
Cool. All right.
So that's just a really big part of our culture in the States, especially in the southern US, like these marching bands and drum lines and football games. It's just like this huge thing. And with a lot of the big universities, like University of Michigan, Ohio State, that kind of stuff in the US, like marching bands are just like a huge part of their culture. So that's what got, and it's really precise, like it's really like mathematical and precise. So even like your stickings, like which stick you're using, your right, left, whatever, like that's all completely drawn out. And even your stick height, so like they'll be yelling like 3, 6, 9, 12 like inches. So the idea is to look identical, and then you're also marching and moving, so it's like it's very embodied. So like you're marching to the like quarter note beat, and then you're like playing all this stuff with your hands. So it flowed so well for me, like kind of combining that tap dancer past with like rhythm in my hands. So
Oh, it's almost military.
it's based on militaristic stuff. Yeah, it is. It really is. That's where the roots are. And so so I got really into that, and that because my school, like, I'm from a really small town, like 1,000 people, and a very like low income area, so we didn't have a super great music program. So I was only like, when I kind of started doing this in high school and taking music lessons outside of my music program, and this really like organized, I don't know, like my brain really likes kind of like mathematical, like organized things. So and it was very choreographed. So I don't know, it just really flowed well for me. And that's when I started taking music really seriously.
Yeah. And so, okay, I know there's more stuff. So you've been traveling too for music.
Yeah, so I got really serious, like I said, in high school. Knew I wanted to continue that as like an actual university degree. I knew I wanted to go to university and wanted to get out of my small town, and I was academically really strong too throughout school, and I wanted to go for music. So I ended up doing like a classical music degree, but during my undergraduate, so I did like a world religion degree and a classical music degree, I started getting really interested in West African percussion. Like I just was at a music festival one day when I was like 19 or 20, and I heard like djembe djembe music from like Guinea and Mali, and I was just like, what is this? This is incredible. Like I had never been so drawn to something in my life, as far as just like the music itself and the rhythms. And so I wanted to know more, so I started studying with the leader of the group that I saw, and this was in Michigan still, and did a lot of work with him, and then he moved to Boston. So once he left, there's not a lot of resources for African music in Michigan, so I kind of did as much as I could, and I was like, I think I need to study abroad and expand that way. It seems like the only option really at this point. So my intention was to go to Senegal, because I wanted to go to Guinea and Mali, but this was back in like 2010, 2011, so things were starting to get pretty tense in like northern Mali. And so since I was going through my university, they are very strict on like the safety of countries that you're going to, because they're liable for you and they want you to be safe. So I wasn't able to go to, like, Guinea and Mali weren't an option for me. So Senegal was the closest place I could go, and I was super excited. I was like taking all these French courses, I was doing all this preparation, and I applied to go to the Senegalese program. And then like 1 month before I was supposed to leave, they were just like, we're not sending music students to Senegal, you can go to Ghana. And I was so upset, because they just were like, this is your only option. And I didn't know anything about Ghana. They were Anglophone. I purposely wanted to go to a Francophone country so I could become bilingual. I wanted to go to a Muslim country because I needed a class on Islam to complete my undergrad in world religion. And so Ghana's this like super Christian Anglophone country who's got a very different culture, music-wise and otherwise, than like Senegal. But it was kind of one of those like Africa's a country moments that was so frustrating that I was just like, even at the academic level, people think this. So
oh really?
Yeah, because they were like, yeah, you want to go to Senegal, like whatever, you can just go to Ghana, they're the same thing. And it's just like, not at all, actually. So I was actually hilariously very upset that I had to go to Ghana at first, but I went and ended up, I was there for 5 months. I went as a university student, so I lived on campus, lived in the dorms, I was in like the international dorm. So I was living I had like a Ghanaian roommate. We lived like literally in the same room, like beds 10 feet apart from each other. Lived with a lot of Nigerians, a lot of other Americans, with some Australians, and just like lived the university student life there. Did like courses, had music lessons one-on-one, and then I went out to the clubs a lot, and that's when I first encountered hip life, or like what we call like Afro beats these days. Yeah, so it was a big moment for me as far as like what changed my life.
And so how's I wanted to ask more about like the student life there, if it's what the difference is. And
so many differences. So many differences, besides just like the obvious, just kind of like culture shock, and even just like the physical environment. Like it's just so hot. So like I was taking dance classes. They're so fun. So I had dance classes a couple times a week, and I was and they had live drummers. They had a group of like 5 to 7 live drummers like in your dance class every time. So that was incredible. And I was studying with the leader, who's the director of that. That's who I was taking drumming lessons with. So I was like learning the music with him one-on-one, and then I was taking the group classes. And so the classes were half like foreigners, or Brunies, what they called, and then like half Ghanaian students. So it was this interesting mixture. And what I found so fascinating was a lot of the music there is in 12, and so you can either feel it in 3 or you can feel it in 4. Like you can feel it simultaneously in both, and that's what like adds this really interesting complexity to a lot of West African music. And so what was so interesting is that consistently, like the Ghanaian students would feel it in 3 or in 4, and all the foreign students would feel it in 3. Like when they, so there's this bell pattern that's like, and that's how the Western students would feel it. And the Ghanaian, how it actually is.
Right.
So it was like, you'd see things like that, like super, like, so they're like even like interesting cultural differences like that. And it was hot as hell, so it was really challenging doing like highly intensely aerobic like dance classes for 2 hours, and it's like, I don't know what it is in Celsius, but it's like, you know, like 90 degrees in Fahrenheit, so super hot. It was the actual like philosophy on education is very different, and that is like a reflection of just kind of like cultural norms and standards. So like respecting your elders and ancestors is huge. So like you just don't question, talk back to anything to like an elder, whether you know them or not. Like you just, that's a no-no. So it was that to like the extreme in the education system too. So like things like even like critical thinking was looked at as questioning authority. So I came from my program, especially like my world religion degree, was like super critical thinking encouraged. It was like a super lefty liberal arts kind of program, very like post-colonial decolonization, very like the whole job was like they want you to think critically, they want you to have your own thoughts. Like a lot of my like assignments in my religion degree were just to write like reflection essays and journals. Like they're like, no, like we want to hear your thoughts, that's the point. And it was the exact opposite at University of Ghana, because I guess I didn't mention that's where I was living in Accra, in the capital, going to University of Ghana. There's like 30,000 students there, and so it's like I had friends in the sciences, and for their exams their job was to literally word for word write the definitions that they were given, and if they like misplaced a couple words or put the definition into their own words and interpretation, it would be marked wrong. So like huge, it was really challenging to shift there's like the kind of like approach, and all of your grade was just based on your exam at the end of the semester. So that's a lot of pressure. Yeah. So you're writing so you're writing exams for like a couple hours at the end of the semester, and the exam period's like a month long, and you're writing just like 5 like long essays pretty much for every class, and that determines what your grade's going to be. So it was just a lot of pressure, and even I don't know, like I had different kinds of experiences in my classes. I was like actually like in their music program, like going to music classes, and so for most of the classes I was the only foreigner in the class. So it was just like me and Ghanaian students, and so in one of the classes I was also the only woman in the class, and it was like more of a theoretical music class about like rhythm, and it was really challenging. Like the professor was like super sexist and like really put me down a lot, and it was really challenging. And I remember one time there's like multiple, you can write like, and I was going to school for like classical music, so I had already gone through years of like music theory and like sight singing and ear training where you're doing all this dictation, so I was super used to like writing down music and transcribing it all the time. That was like what I was trained in. And I remember one day on the board he wanted us to dictate this bell pattern out, and I was learning that rhythm like with the director of like the drumming and dance department, so I knew the bell pattern really well, and so I wrote it out, and he's like, that's wrong. And I was like, I knew it wasn't wrong. And he had someone else write it on the board, like a dude, a male Ghanaian student, and he wrote the same rhythm, but like there's different ways to write the same rhythm. Like you can do dots, and like there's just so many different ways to write it, and we both wrote it. It was the same rhythm, I just wrote it a different way. And he just in front of the class just like roasted me, and I was just like, and I'm pretty fiery, and I don't back down that easy. Like I was way more respectful there, but I still was like, I know this is right. Like I know this is definitely, I'm like, this is just a different way to write this. Like this is the same thing, like for sure. So I had moments like that, and then I had moments, so I had like a lot of interesting moments that way, and then I had on the other side of the spectrum, colonialism is still like, there's a lot of like sediments of colonialism still. There's a lot of that lingering in the air, and it's like really apparent, and it's just so shitty. Like you see that a lot. And so I'd either get two reactions. A lot of people were very welcoming and very hospitable. Some people were like, didn't like me because I was a foreigner, but then like there was this weird colonial thing still. Like some people would actually be like look up to me and think I was better and smarter because I was American and white, and that was very weird. So I had a professor it was like me and like 30 Ghanaians in this class, and it was a class about like the diaspora, music in the diaspora. So it was like about Brazil, mostly Brazilian music, and she would, in front of the whole class, like ask for like me to confirm if things were correct or not. She'd be like, isn't that right, Sarah? Or like she'd like literally like put me up on this pedestal as like me having the authority and final answer. And I was just like, and I was really good friends with my classmates, and she was like 60, she was like this auntie, and she was so nice, but it was like stuff like that where I'm just like, holy shit, like what do you even say in that moment? Me and my classmates would just look at each other and be like, this is so awkward and weird, like holy shit. So it was such an interesting experience, but it was so many things.
Do you think of like going back to go to the country you wanted to actually go in the first place?
Yeah, I want to actually, there's so many countries I'd like to go to, on the continent. Definitely want to hit up all those Francophone West African countries.
So how did you change your vision of the world when you came back?
Ooh, well, like I said, I got to like really encounter, well, like, you know, Ghana, like a lot of developing countries, is a place of extremes. There's like no middle class. There's extreme wealth. Like people don't realize often, like I knew that a lot of our concepts of like what Africa is flawed and not accurate. Like the West gets this very narrow concept of like Africa is poor, everyone's like, it's just warlords and like lions and starving kids, and that's it. Like that's just kind of the image we get in the West all the time, and I knew that wasn't right. But you get surprised by like my roommate and a lot of my classmates were like way wealthier than I am. Like I'm from like a super low income, you know, country bumpkin like Trump land in like northern Michigan, and everyone assumed I was super rich, and I was like no man, I'm like taking out so many loads to be here. So I was surprised. You're surprised by like, I go to clubs and there'd be like $1,000 bottles of champagne and booths and bottle service and like all these mansions, and then just like a 5-minute drive away is like the worst slums I've ever seen in my life at the same time. So it's like shocking to encounter that. I had never encountered both extremes so much. I've never seen like such an extreme slums. I've never seen such extreme wealth in my life. Again, like seeing so much of like the colonialism, like just at first, like, okay, so this is a huge one. I was spending a lot of time in the Volta region, which is on the far east side of, on the border of Ghana and Togo. And I was spending some time in this village, and it's on top of like the tallest mountain range in West Africa, on like this giant waterfall that like everyone goes to for tourism stuff. And so I was just like collaborating and spending some time with this like 1,000-person village on top of this waterfall. And so the family that I'd stay with, the like teenage like son of the family was on a football team. So we'd go to his football games, and we'd walk 15 minutes to his football game. As in soccer, okay. Yeah. And we go there, 15-minute walk, and then we were in Togo. Like it's right on the border. And that was just, so literally we're on top of this mountain that takes 4 hours to hike. There's only 2 villages on top of this mountain, but one's in Ghana and one's in Togo. So like you go 15 minutes and all the signs are in French now. There's different currency, there's different education system. And to me that was just crazy, because it's like they're both LA people on the same little mountaintop, and literally the Europeans were just like, here's a line, okay, this side's French, this side's English, you know, and British. So it's kind of like that was really apparent. Like all these things were just so obvious, and you're like, wow, you just feel how it, and I also went to the like, you know, Ghana was one of the major places. Well, it wasn't Ghana at that point, but that region was really big in the transatlantic slave trade. So it was like one of the major ports, because there's this area, Cape Coast, and in what we now call Ghana, but used to just be called the Gold Coast. And they take a lot of gold and they take a lot of people, unfortunately. And so there's these two, and they're now like these like tourism sites. So there's these two main castles. One's British, called Cape Coast Castle, and one's Portuguese, and it's Elmina Castle. And they're both from like 1590, like 1600, super old. So like I went in there and I actually played a concert at one of them and like put drums away in the dark at night by myself. And like that was also, you know, I'm born and raised in America, from this very small, all white, like very racist town. Like and we learned so much about that, like the black white, like social and political politics is like so in our face in America. And the transatlantic slave trade is something that like we're like, it is our history, you know, it's what our country was built on, literally. So it was a really interesting experience. And when I was in there, I was there with like other Americans. There was just like from all different backgrounds, a bunch of people who were black, white, mixed race, and like we're all just like in there together, kind of just like soaking that in. So that was a big moment of just kind of like the reality really hits. Like you already know it's a thing, and then you're just like, whoa, this is, yeah. When you get a tour of those places and you hear all the stories and you can see things on the wall, like you can see literal like remains of different things on the walls there. It's just next level. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot packed into 5 months. It honestly I felt like I aged 5 years, and I felt like it was 5 years.
So you're planning on going back to
yeah,
planning on going to Senegal at some point?
I would love to go to Senegal. I would love to go to Mali. Mali is really the place I'm super keen on going to. I think Mali has such a rich musical just culture. I mean, everywhere does, but there's something about Mali. It just seems there's just so much incredible stuff. I really like Kora music, and yeah, I would love to go up in the northern area where like the desert is. I'd love to go to like Timbuktu and Djenné and all these places. It's still a little bit unsettled there, but would love to go there. I'd love to go a lot of places. I'd love to go to Nigeria. I'd love to go back to Ghana, of course. I'd love to go, now that I'm playing a lot more Afro House and Gom and Kuduro and stuff, it's like I really want to go to South Africa and Mozambique and Angola and just kind of check out that region as well. Yeah.
Alright, so let's switch it up for a little bit. What about your DJ thing?
The DJ thing? I'm almost at my 2-year anniversary. I played my first party 2 Decembers ago, so I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, wow, it's been almost 2 years. A lot's happened in 2 years. It's cool. Like, it's funny, my business partner and bandmate John Orpheus just kind of kept calling me a DJ until I accepted that identity, because he and I, so we have a band, but we've been throwing events for a while that of course you know about, being the DJ at many of them. And even before we were doing the House Orpheus events, we would just like, we had like just some like mixtape release parties, and we didn't yet have a DJ for them. And so I would just like put together Spotify playlists, and like I have the premium, so you can just download that, like you just put them on an aux cable and listen to them. So I was curating playlists all the time for a lot of different parties and just like hang. So I was just doing the act of curating music super casually. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I like kind of being like, okay, what's the mood? What's the vibe? And like I was already making all these playlists on Spotify just, you know, for myself, just to enjoy and to like organize and catalog like new music I would find. And so yeah, he kind of kept just calling me a DJ, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get equipment and do this. And I had a bunch of DJ friends, more so in like the house, techno, and electronic music scenes, and they were super generous and just like gave me some of their equipment to practice on at first. And then yeah, 2 Decembers ago, my friends invited me to like play this boat party that was docked because it was December, but I did that. And then Afro House came into existence only 2 months later, so it just kind of escalated very quickly. So I got the opportunity to do Afro House, or to do anything. Like we were doing, you know, events at this really dope gallery, Art Square, that, you know, of course he used to join us at. And so they came to me and they were like, we want to start doing like Friday evening, like DJ dance party kind of nights. We heard, you know, that you're starting to DJ. Would you like to do that like every Friday? And you can do whatever you want. They're like just not really top 40, which is not the vibe I was going for anyway. And so I was like, you know, what's missing and what do I want to play? And I was like, okay, I would love to do like a weekly like super underground African music like dance party. That's the kind of music I want to play. I wasn't hearing a lot of like Kuduro and Gom and like all these other genres super often downtown. And I'm like, we have such a huge African population. And I had been to your event, Ubuntu, and some other ones. And I was like, man, like this is just like the vibe I love. This is what the kind of music I want to like help support. And so I started DJing a lot because we started doing it weekly, and I was doing 2 sets per week. So I went from like doing 1 gig ever in my life to like 2 sets every Friday. Just go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what kind of challenges you run into
With DJing, or
yeah?
At first it was just basic stuff like, well, I always joke around, and I'm sure you agree that like honestly half of DJing is just troubleshooting and like technical stuff. Like you just, there's been so many times where like there's just so many buttons and cables and just little switches and knobs that like all it takes is like on a mixer or within your controller or even within your program is like one thing to be turned the wrong way and no sound comes out. And I've had at first couple moments where it's like there's so many different layers of things to check, or things will cut out in the middle. Like it's just like technical difficulties was a lot of challenges. And a lot of it you just have to learn through experience. So that was a lot of that at first. Now I feel really comfortable like setting up a PA and sound system and troubleshooting different electronic stuff, issues. Challenges. Feeling like self-confidence at first. Like it was a huge new endeavor and challenge, and feeling like, is it okay that I'm doing this? I'm this like rando white girl doing all this African music, and what's my role in this? And like, am I an imposter? I was like struggling with imposter syndrome for a while. And just like confidence, because it's can be a lot of pressure. Now I feel very comfortable, but at first, I was nervous because you've got like the party in the palm of your hand, and it's like every song that you put on next is either gonna like pump up the party or do the opposite. And so that pressure was a lot for me at first, and I was still figuring out like my equipment, technically speaking, and then like my Serato like software. So it's just like a learning curve of just figuring out new gear, new ways to interact with music. And then you're also making these selections. I mean, if you're playing dancehall and Afrobeats, you might be putting on a new song every 90 seconds. If you're playing house, maybe every like 3 to 4 minutes, but it's still like a very like constant, rapid choice making process. So that was really challenging for me at first. I was just like, holy shit, this is so much pressure.
And because you're really mathematical.
Yeah. Yep. And I had pressure because it's like I had been a professional musician for almost 15 years at that point. And so I had this, like, it was kind of hard coming and being like a complete noob at something, because I already had such high standards for myself as a musician. And of course a lot of things happened easier because I already had the musical background. It's not like I had to learn concepts of like rhythm and key and BPM. Like I already knew all that stuff. Phrasing, like understanding like song structure. It's like I understood that, but of course it's like, but it's still a new thing, and I was still starting from square one in a lot of ways. So it was like a big psychological thing for the first year of just like patience with myself, because I don't have a lot of patience with myself. So yeah, it was a bit of a reality check in that way.
And what about the drive of building this community? Because you built this whole community around this event. Yeah, and it's and that event too, like Afra House, you know, it grew out of and even took like the house, like the HAUS came from this house Orpheus event. So I was creating something new, yes, but also like building on something that like John and I had created together. And so I'd seen the way that, and there was even other communities, like I was hanging a lot at this place called Blank Canvas for about 3 years ago, and seeing that scene. They do like the Dead Poet, like open mic night, and they do a lot of stuff. And
I was really inspired by that community. It's like, it was actually more like the underground hip hop community that really inspired me at first, where I like really saw what community could be and what could and what it could do. And then I started going to events like your event Ubuntu, and I was just like seeing people dance like that. It was like I hadn't seen that since I lived in Ghana, and I craved that. I craved that, like coming to an event first to like dance and connect, and you love the music, not just to get wasted and be sleazy. Like it's like, I mean, if you still want to like have some drinks and like, you know, meet some people, like good, like, but like it's not the only, it's not like you're not just going there to forget, you're not going there to like,
right,
you know. And so I wanted to like keep that kind of momentum going.
that's a good way to say it, actually.
Yeah,
You're not here to forget, you're here to discover
and to remember. And it's like you're there to build. I feel like people go out a lot and it's a very like destructive kind of a thing. It's an outlet, and it's like this can still be an outlet. Like that's what I want people to have. This like, no matter what's happening in your life, no matter what's happening at work, no matter what's happening, you know, you come together and you can just like celebrate and release, like even release and dance through and work through all of the things that maybe are challenging in your life, but you don't do it in this like destructive way. And you leave and it's like you feel better, you're more uplifted, you know, you meet good people, you have like, you're building something, community. And then also it's like I really wanted to have this place where like all this incredible music that we love, you know, like there's just so much incredible music coming out of Africa right now. And so like and we have such a diverse city, and I'm like, this needs to be featured more and in the downtown area, because you know you can go to events that are like, you can find like 300 Nigerian people at an event, like, you know, in the GTA, but it's hard to find that music consistently, like all the time in the downtown core. So yeah, the community was kind of, and I wanted to feature local artists, which I'm doing more now. It's taken a couple years because we're going to be 2 years old in February, Afro House. So now the event's transformed to a place where I can really support and feature local artists a lot more. So for the first year and a half, the whole event was just like me and another guest DJ, and that was the event. It was still dope. We had a lot of good times and stuff, but I'm with this new venue, Round, in Kensington Market, which is like so ideal in so many ways. And not only is it bigger, it can accommodate like 250 to 300 people, because we're getting about 200 people consistently now, which is incredible. But they have like an incredible sound system. They have this huge projector, like incredible quality projector that goes behind the DJ booth. So like now I have, at each event, there's 3 DJs, like myself and 2 guest DJs. There's 2 performance slots, so like 15-minute like African like rappers or singers that are like local creating this music, because there are quite a few people in Toronto doing that. And then I have a live drummer now every time from like 1 a.m. until 2:30, and then I have a VJ doing the visuals, which is, they usually do a combination of like footage from our past events, like of people dancing, mashed up with like music videos from like WizKid, Shoma Josie, Yemi Alade, because the visuals for a lot of the songs we listen to are unbelievable. And so now it's a more of an immersive experience where you're getting the visuals, you're seeing a lot of the content that like the like, you know, so like the African artists are creating in their music videos, but you're also hearing like local Toronto artists and DJs and drummers. So it's way more of an immersive experience now, which is kind of what I always wanted to do. It just took me a minute to get there, for sure.
So it took you a minute, but what is there like another step you want to do after?
For the future, yeah, I'm excited to kind of let this new, like, it's like Afro House 2.0, this kind of new era, I'm gonna let that ride for a while, because we really just started that just in October, a couple weeks ago. I would like to do something outside in the summertime, like once a month. I mean, I feel like, so we threw a park party last summer, and a ridiculously large party on Cherry Beach for my 30th birthday in August. And I really like the idea of gathering outside in the summer. I really enjoyed both those parties. So I'd like to do something that's perhaps, because both of those were just like renegade, and we just kind of threw it together. And thinking about maybe doing something a bit more official, like that's like okayed by the city and stuff, and maybe a bit I don't know, it's hard because I like at one point like I kind of don't want to do that, and then because it's like it gives you so much more freedom to just do what you want, but it also allows you to grow and do things a bit more officially and be even more organized when you do it like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for the summer. I'm planning the 2-year anniversary party right now for February, and for that there's going to be just lots of DJs. It's going to be similar to last year, 2 floors, because I liked having one floor being like mostly West African music and one floor being mostly Southern African music, so people can really hear the differences and enjoy like the different vibes, just because I want to present to that like people, you know, there's so much diversity, not only within the music but within everything, you know, over the continent. So lots of DJs, lots of performances. I think we're gonna do a dance battle for money, like cash prizes. I've been really wanting to do that for a while, and I feel like the anniversary party is a good time to do that. And like ultimately I'd love to do like a festival kind of thing. I feel like we're getting close to that. The beach party we did in August felt like a festival. It was like, like 12 DJs, 6 live performances. There was like projector. It was like 2 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that felt like we're getting closer to do a festival, but you know, I want to be able to actually start bringing artists like Shoma Josie, Moonchild Snelly, like all these people that we spin. It's like I want to be able to get them here to headline things like that. That's really like the goal I'm working towards. Yeah.
So the bottom line goal is really to push the music and to bring up a community together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something more personal behind this?
Personal. To me, those are the two things that fuel me in life. It's just like building. I love building community, and I have a couple different event series that I do, and all of them are about like building community, which is a personal thing for me too, because I really enjoy having that support and just having places where I feel safe and I feel free to be myself, and I just can have something alternative to like what is given to us as nightlife pretty much here. Like there's very limited options. So like for me personally, it's about creating that kind of space that I want other people to have too, especially people from like disadvantaged populations, like making sure like women, queer people of color have more spaces where they just feel safe and they feel able to just be themselves and to be respected. And so that's like the real personal kind of, but behind every event that I do, that's really number one goal. And then, you know, just creating, I've been doing the artist hustle my whole life, and I know how challenging it can be. And it's like, as I am creating space for myself, because I mean, obviously I benefit from these events too. Like I went from having no DJ career to like, oh, now I have gigs every week. But it's like, I want to always be creating other spaces and opportunities for other artists at the same time that I'm creating them for myself, especially being like a white person, like creating this career off of like mostly African music. And then as my band, it's like we're doing soca dance hall, like super Caribbean stuff as well. And it's like, it's very important for me on a personal level to create space and opportunities and to promote local and international artists from these places as well.
Okay, I'm gonna ask some hard stuff now.
Please.
So you talked about this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Did you get actual like reaction from that kind of stuff, like bad experiences or stuff that actually? Because I asked you for the challenges, but
Yeah.
did you get stuff related to this syndrome actually happen, or
Like
was
from
it just
other
all in
people?
your head? Yeah.
It was mostly in my, for the most part, I've honestly received a lot of support. People have been very welcoming. There's the times I've received a bit of pushback, it's more like a regional thing. There's been a couple times I've played parties that were very, like I played a party that was like pretty much just for Congolese people. Like the owners of the restaurant. I mean, everyone there, most people there was like pretty diverse, but as far as people who own the place and who were running the event and a lot of stuff was like very Congolese. And I don't have a huge Congolese library. I have like maybe 10 songs tops, but it's not my area of expertise at all. But my friends were throwing the event, our good friends, and I told them, I was like, hey, like I don't have a deep francophone library. I'm not gonna pretend I do. And they were adamant about like, no, we want you, like we want what you play, which is a lot of Southern African stuff and a lot of like Nigerian and Ghanaian music. So I went in doing that, playing a lot of Gom and Kuduro and Afro House, and that's what they wanted me to play. But I did not get a good reaction from all like the owners. They were a little bit older and stuff, to the point, this was the only time this has ever happened to me, where they were like, they like kicked me off after playing for like 20 minutes. And I was like, that felt like shit. And I felt that was a hard day for me. I felt like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And like, I felt so upset, and I just felt like an idiot. So that happened, but that was more of like a regional thing. Even though like my friends who organized it, like they were like, no, like we want you to play this, but it was like all the other people, because it was pretty late too, and like a lot of people who were left were just like Congolese, and the other DJs were Francophone, so they were just kind of like, no, we just don't even want to hear this. Like, if you're not playing Francophone music, like get off, pretty much. And I had a similar thing. I played a Zimbabwean Independence Day party, and it was such an interesting moment. There was a really incredible DJ from Zimbabwe who was headlining it, who was a white guy actually, but he's born and raised in Zimbabwe. And I was supposed to go on before him, but I ended up going on right after him, and he played for an hour and a half, and he just like, he was so good, but he played pretty much all the songs I was gonna play. Like, not even just the genres, the exact songs. Like, so it was amazing to see him, because I was like, you're taking all the music I usually play and just doing this amazing stuff with it. So I was like so happy to be there. And then, you know, I'm supposed to go on it now at 2 a.m. and everyone's so hype, and everyone there, like, I was one of like, there's like probably 200 people there, and I was one of like 3 white people there. And I was the only woman on the bill too, and this is on the other party as well. I was the only woman that was playing out of the artists the DJs as well too. And so I had a similar thing there. So like what do
you have to do, the fact that you're the only woman playing?
I mean, that's also like an interesting thing to be, because it's like this very masculine energy, and a lot of people don't take me seriously at first, because they're like, because I'm a woman and I'm white, and they're just kind of like, oh, what are you here to do? You know what I mean? And usually I'm like, I just do my thing, and you know. Isn't
that just because they don't know you?
A lot of them, they don't know me. Yeah, a lot of people don't know me, but you know, but their expectations, you know, and like, fair enough. A lot of their expectations are just like, sorry, you're the Afro DJ that's gonna be here. Like, so I'm used to getting that, but usually, I mean, I was also, I'm used to being in that position for like the last 5 years, more so when I first moved here. I was playing in this Ghanaian drumming ensemble, playing all this like traditional Ghanaian music, Ashanti music, Ewe music, Ga music, just drumming, singing kind of stuff at Ghanaian events. Like, we only played pretty much at like weddings, funerals, anniversary parties, birthdays, to like rooms of like just Ghanaian people, mostly in like North York, Brampton, Etobicoke. And of course people would be like, wait, so you're the drummer? Because I even played for Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo. Like, he was campaigning here right before he got elected, and so there was like 500 people at this banquet hall, like in like Brampton, as he's campaigning, and we like played the Ashanti music. He's Ashanti, for him to like come into the room. So I was used to kind of getting that look of like, wait, sorry, you're the one who's gonna do this, you know? But yeah, I mean, I don't take offense to that really, because I'm kind of like, yeah, I know it's weird, you know, like it's improbable and kind of bizarre, but
I mean, personally, I've been having this type of reaction with dance for years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it plays in your favor too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you deliver, you have like the surprise effect that amplifies what you're doing.
Yep.
So
100%. Yeah. And I can't, you know, and it does, you're memorable, right? You're instantly memorable. So if you do deliver and you can take care of business.
But it's also sad, because a lot of it comes out like ignorance a little.
Mm-hmm.
But I trust me, I get that a lot. I would like what the hell did you like learn this step?
Yeah. Where'd you learn
this? It's a movement, you know, like you learn.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just, and it's like, I know it's weird, so I kind of like, I don't take any offense to that initial reaction of people, because if I was in their shoes, I would probably be kind of like, wait, what? But yeah, it was only those 2 times where I felt like I was actually like taken off, and that made the imposter syndrome be like, fuck, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, it was a pretty big blow to my ego for a few months. Like, both of those things happened within like 3 weeks of each other. And for a few months, I didn't really DJ. And I was like pretty down. And I was just kind of like, what am I even doing? Like, what is this? Like, am I an idiot for even trying this path? And that's what happens a lot as like an artist and entrepreneur. There's a lot of ups and downs, you know.
So let me ask you another question. It's a hard one.
Sure.
Do you see this community that you have around you kind of like trying to feel better about this situation? Like kind of validating the fact that you're doing something right?
Like having it, like me wanting to do it to validate?
Like the fact that you have this imposter feeling, like you had, because you're feeling better now.
Yeah.
The fact that you had this whole community around that, is it like some sort of safety net to always like remember that, okay, you're not?
Well, I don't... That would probably make sense, but like I should remember that. Like in those moments, I actually in those moments, I should have been like, "Hey, you have so much support and love." And I like didn't like that wasn't registering to me. I was just feeling so down because it's not like I created the community to do that. I created it to like, you know, genuinely, because I was like, I want to like build community. I want to like, but in those moments, I should be like, Sarah, like. Well, because one, you can't win every crowd, and you can't win over every gig. Like, there's always going to be a few where like you can do your best, and sometimes it still doesn't resonate with people. And in those moments, I probably should have been like, oh, remember that you have so much support and love. And I honestly, in those moments, like it's like that didn't even register to me. That like, because I just felt like, and then I was like, do people even like me in my Afro House community? Is this all a scam? Like, oh my god, like am I just here? Like, I just felt so down. So like in those moments, I didn't even really think about that either. I was just kind of like,
well, I'm not talking necessarily about that event in particular. My question is more like, is this community kind of like feel like a safety net to kind of counter this feeling of like you said it, the imposter syndrome?
I don't think so. Like, no. I don't think so. No, okay. I mean, it's a valid question, but I don't see it as that, because because I also like, if I welcome any kind of like, if there is any kind of pushback or like, you know, constructive criticism like from that community too, like I totally welcome it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just like, and here's my cult of Afro House, everyone bow down to me. It's like, I'm working on it. At first, I feel like I was doing it. I was just like doing it all myself out of necessity, because I just had to like throw it. I was given this opportunity, and like only a few weeks time, I had to like turn it around and make it into a thing. And at first, I did everything. I did like the graphic design, the social media, the curating, like every single thing I did myself. And it was just like me. And now it's like I still do all the graphic design, and I do, but I have people helping me. I have people who volunteer. I have some people that I pay to help me with stuff sometimes. It's like it's becoming way more of a, and like even with my the events, the park party I did in collaboration with Orla/Owaboa, and my beach party I did in collaboration with DJ Damager, and like it's becoming more of a collaborative kind of a thing. I did an event with Yogi from Solid Garage last year too, so I don't know, like at first, and maybe it was subconsciously, I don't think it was, I was never consciously a thing of like, I need to seek validation, so like let me put together this whole community so I can feel better about me being a random white person doing this.
Well, personally, I built my respect for you because what I personally see is that you're the kind of person to throw yourself in the fire and learn from it. So yeah,
definitely. Like, I especially when I was younger too, I was very bold. I was just like, okay, fuck it, let's go. Like, that's always been my attitude. And as I just turned 30 this year, and as I'm getting a bit more older and more mature, I'm trying to balance that fire a bit, where it's like I'm happy that I had it because it just like got me going. It's like that initiative that like gets you going, and now I'm like kind of just grounding that a bit so I can be a little bit more balanced and like stable and just, you know.
Well, I mean, when I say that is because at a contrast, a lot of people nowadays, especially artists, they always try to calculate everything they do. They don't want to take risks, and being a risk taker and seeing a risk taker in action, even in the moment, you don't understand what the fuck they're doing. but then you see the maturation and you know, in effect, and yeah, it forces respect on my side.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. I feel that too. Where a lot, I feel like so much of my 20s, especially, I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, just like, okay, I gotta just keep moving, keep trying, keep picking up and doing stuff. And you know, I was in tons of bands, probably about 7 different bands here, and trying all these different events. And I was just like, you're just gonna keep up and pick up and keep moving and try new things and try to make this lifestyle work. Like, how do I make this, you know, a sustainable and enjoyable, you know, lifestyle for me, trying to do this artist thing. So it's been a lot of recalculating the formula and shifting things around a lot. And I feel like I'm finally in this place where I've got a pretty good formula that feels like more like I'm happy and healthy, and things are a lot more just like stable and reliable, like in every aspect of my life, as far as gigs and finances and stuff. It's like you're taking, like, here's the way to do, like, how we're taught to kind of live and be an adult and do society, and just flipping it on your head and kind of creating your own lifestyle and way of being, you know. So yeah.
So if you had to go back and like do something differently, like what do you, oh, not saying like with regrets or anything, but more like tune something to avoid certain mistakes, or do one thing differently, you have an idea what you do?
I don't know if I would change much, just because I'm very much like believe in like the butterfly effect. If you change one thing, everything. And I feel really happy with where I am right now, as far as, so I don't know if I change my decisions. I would change maybe my attitude a little bit, and like I wish I would have been a bit more patient with myself and a bit more kind to myself. Just like I just feel like I lived so many of my years in such anxiety of just like, I don't know how, of just like there's so much uncertainty, and I was so impatient with myself. Like I always am in such a rush, I feel like, and yeah, I wish I would have just given myself a lot more love and compassion and patience. That's like the only thing I wish I would have done differently throughout this wild ride. And now I'm at a place where I'm doing a lot more of that. But yeah, I was not super, you know, like being an entrepreneur, you're your own boss. Like you're the boss, and sometimes I'm not a very good boss to myself. I'm a bit intense. So that's what I would do differently, is just allow more patience.
Yeah, treat yourself better.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of time we're responsible for our anxiety, you know, and our communication, especially working with people when you're an entrepreneur. As for me, it's like extremely challenging. Learning a lot from that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what's gonna happen with the Afro House after.
Thank you. Me too. It's feeling really good, and I'm just excited in general for Toronto's music scene, but the Toronto Afro music scene. It's like it's really evolved and developed and exploded in the last bit, and you know, I just saw Black Coffee a couple weeks ago at Rebel, and it was the last time I saw him here. I was not into it, not super impressed at the Everly. It was a very good vibe, but Rebel was actually unbelievable, because it was packed. It was packed. Like I could barely even move, which was a bit frustrating. But like it was so incredible to just see thousands and thousands and thousands of people going nuts for African music, for an African DJ. And he wasn't watering it down when he was playing. Like I've heard him play sometimes where he's really in like the Ibiza techno vibe, and like not this concert. This concert he was playing stuff that like my friends produced, you know, like he was playing some really underground like Afro House, and he was playing techie stuff too. But it was just such an amazing moment to like look around Rebel and see the place just completely packed and everyone just going nuts for this music. I was like, this is so cool to see, and I'm just excited to see how it continues to just explode and develop here. So yeah, it's an exciting time for sure.
Very cool. So we're gonna stop here for the main video, but we're gonna go to the Patreon bonus story where we're gonna hear a little bit more of your music.
Cool. Let's do that.